It is a quiet Sunday afternoon in April 2026. You are at home with your family. Your kids are watching TV in the next room. A pot of chai is sitting on the kitchen counter. Everything feels normal. Then your phone buzzes. A friend just sent you $700 through Zelle for an old sofa and 2 used iPhones you sold him over the weekend. You glance at the notification for half a second. You smile. Then you lock your phone. To you, it is nothing serious. Just a private transaction between friends, completely harmless. But what you do not realize is that one simple payment has now triggered a digital trail inside a federal reporting system you have never even heard of. Now imagine this. You are returning to the United States after visiting your parents overseas. You land at JFK Airport. You walk toward the CBP checkpoint. The officer scans your passport, looks at the screen for a few seconds longer than usual, then says, your stomach drops. You are taken into secondary inspection. An officer asks for your phone. A few minutes later, they pull up your Zelle history. Then they ask one question. You received $700 on April 12th. Was this payment connected to work outside your visa authorization? You freeze. Your heart starts racing. And suddenly, a simple Zelle transfer turns into an immigration problem you never saw coming. Welcome back to Lawful Immigrant Shield. If you are a green card holder, visa holder, international student, naturalized citizen, or part of an immigrant family living in America, today's video could be one of the most important videos you watch all year. Because today, we're talking about the new financial reporting rules quietly affecting millions of immigrants across the United States. We're going to break down how the IRS $600 reporting threshold actually works, why payment apps like Zelle, Venmo, and PayPal are creating confusion for visa holders, how normal transactions can accidentally raise immigration questions, what CBP officers can look at during airport inspections, and most importantly, how to protect yourself legally without panicking. And trust me, some of what you are about to hear sounds unbelievable until it happens to someone you know. Before we get into protection strategies, you first need to understand how much immigration enforcement has changed over the last few years. Most immigrants still think immigration reviews only happen during interviews. That is no longer true. Today, financial records, travel history, social media activity, and digital payment platforms are all becoming part of a much larger verification system. And the problem is not always intentional fraud. Sometimes the system simply gets it wrong. That is where many immigrants get trapped. Take the example of Rahul. Rahul was an F1 student studying in Texas. Smart kid, no criminal history, good grades, followed the rules carefully. One summer, he sold electronics online to help cover rent and groceries. Nothing huge. A laptop, an old gaming console, a camera. Over several months, he received multiple Zelle and PayPal payments from different buyers. To him, these were personal sales. But during a later immigration review connected to his OPT application, an officer questioned whether those transactions looked like unauthorized business activity. Rahul spent months trying to prove he was not secretly working off campus, not because he was guilty, because the system saw patterns before it saw context. And that is exactly what scares many immigrants today. Not deliberate fraud, accidental misunderstanding. This is what many people do not understand about immigration stress in America. Sometimes it is not the law itself that destroys people emotionally. It is uncertainty. It is never knowing which normal, everyday action could suddenly be misunderstood by a computer system, a border officer, or a government database. That uncertainty keeps families awake at night, especially people on temporary visas, especially immigrants who spent years building their lives legally. Now let's talk about the famous $600 rule everyone keeps hearing about online. Because there is a lot of confusion surrounding this topic. Here is what actually matters. Payment platforms may issue tax reporting forms when certain transaction thresholds are reached, particularly for payments categorized as goods or services. The problem is that many immigrants do not understand how transactions are categorized, and sometimes people accidentally label personal payments incorrectly. For example, your cousin repays you for concert tickets. A friend sends money for furniture. Someone pays you back for a shared apartment expense. But if those payments are marked the wrong way inside an app, they may appear business-related instead of personal. That does not automatically mean immigration trouble, but it can create questions. And questions are what many immigrants fear most. Now imagine this situation. You are an H-1B worker. You have spent 7 years in America. You followed every rule carefully. Then one day, during a visa renewal interview, an officer asks about repeated Zella deposits from different people over several months. You try explaining, it was just Facebook Marketplace. It was just personal items. It was just shared expenses. But now you are nervous. You start over-explaining. Your voice shakes. And suddenly the conversation feels much more serious than you expected. This is why preparation matters, not fear. Preparation. Now let's discuss airports, because this is where many immigrants feel the most pressure, especially after long international trips. Many travelers still do not realize that CBP officers have broad authority at ports of entry. And yes, in some situations, officers may inspect electronic devices. That includes phones, laptops, tablets, and sometimes payment app histories become part of broader questioning. This does not mean every traveler is under investigation. Most people enter the country without any issue at all. But if an officer already has concerns about employment history, visa compliance, or financial inconsistencies, your digital footprint may suddenly become relevant. That is why organization matters. That is why documentation matters. And that is why panic is the worst possible reaction. So how do you protect yourself intelligently without becoming paranoid? I call this the quiet protection plan. First, separate personal payments from business activity clearly. If money is truly personal, avoid confusing descriptions and keep records whenever possible. Second, document large personal sales. Selling an old phone? Keep screenshots. Selling furniture? Save the messages. Maintain a simple paper trail so you can explain transactions calmly if questions ever arise later. Third, understand your immigration work limitations clearly. This is critical for F1 students, H-1B holders, and dependent visa categories. Many immigrants accidentally cross lines simply because nobody explained the rules properly. Fourth, stay calm during airport questioning. People hurt themselves most when panic takes over. They begin guessing, over-explaining, contradicting themselves. A calm answer always looks stronger than a nervous speech. And fifth, know when to stop talking. If questioning becomes serious, asking for legal counsel is not an admission of guilt. It is your legal right. Too many immigrants think remaining silent makes them look suspicious. Sometimes protecting yourself means speaking less, not more. I think what frustrates immigrants the most is this. Many people came to America legally, worked hard, paid taxes, built businesses, raised children, followed the system. And yet they still feel like one misunderstanding could destroy everything. That emotional pressure is real, especially in 2026, when financial technology, immigration systems, and data sharing are becoming more connected than ever before. And here is where things become even more important, because payment apps are not the only issue anymore. Many immigrants are now unknowingly creating digital timelines of their entire lives. Travel records, tax filings, bank transfers, marketplace sales, social media activity, cloud backups, location history. Everything connects, which means consistency matters more than ever. If your visa says one thing, but your digital activity suggests another, that inconsistency may trigger questions later. Even innocent inconsistencies. And unfortunately, government systems do not always understand nuance very well. Now I want to say something important. This video is not about living in fear. It is about being informed, because there is a huge difference between panic and preparation. Panic destroys judgment. Preparation creates confidence. Most immigrants will never face serious problems over simple payment app activity. But understanding how these systems work helps you avoid unnecessary mistakes before they happen. And honestly, that knowledge alone can save people months of stress. Right now, across the United States, millions of immigrants are trying to build stable lives. Parents are working double shifts, students are chasing degrees, families are saving for homes. People are sacrificing everything for a future they believe in. And the last thing anyone wants is for a simple misunderstanding to create immigration complications years later. That is why channels like this exist, not to scare you, to prepare you, to help you stay one step ahead, and to make sure immigrant families understand the rules before those rules affect them directly. Before you leave, do 3 things. First, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, especially students, visa holders, green card holders, and immigrant families using payment apps regularly. Second, subscribe to Lawful Immigrant Shield and turn on notifications, because immigration rules, border procedures, and financial reporting systems are changing faster than ever. And third, comment below with one word: prepared. Because preparation is what protects families, not panic. In the next video, we are going to break down the new airport phone search concerns that travelers are talking about in 2026, including what CBP officers can and cannot legally inspect when you land in the United States. You do not want to miss that one. Protect your future, protect your family, and protect your status. I will see you in the next video.